And we should be live. Welcome everybody to another live stream repair for Apple HomePods. We've got 1.5 sent in to us today. First one comes from Eddie. It's the whole pod and it's got no power. While we're at it, we're going to go ahead and change everything over from the white parts that are currently on it over to the black. And then we've got the amplifier board from Darcy with death parts that we're going to get fixed up after that. So let's crack open a beverage. And get started. Here we go. HomePod number 1. Let's go ahead and check our symptoms here. Oh, I just noticed I don't have my other camera up. Let's get that going. And there we go. So let's go ahead and check our symptoms. Yes, indeed, no response, no power, and about 4 to 5 watts at the wall according to our kilowatt meter there. All seems to be pretty typical symptoms of a shorted diode on the amplifier. Let's crack it open and find out. As usual, we will be cutting through the adhesive. We're not prying this top off. We're just cutting through that adhesive and going around a few times until that just pops off all on its own. Then we can grab our screwdriver with a T6 Torx bit on there. That's the only one we'll need for most of this stuff. We'll actually need to break out the T5 in order to fully remove the mesh so we can swap it over to the black. Made quite the mess with this adhesive, so we're just sticking that all back down. Okay. Hey Tim, welcome to the chat. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to another live repair. Let's see. Mid 80s to mid 30s a few. Yeah, dude, no kidding. We were just talking about that earlier. It quite literally changed overnight. Went from 80 in the day, and then that same night it went what, like freaking, like you said, 30s, 40s. So this keyboard, this is the Tex Yoda. And what I really like about this is it's obviously the single mini USB connection there. You can tell based on that port this is starting to age. But it's got two USB ports built into it, so it's got obviously the nipple mouse reminiscent of the ThinkPad style setup, and then the mouse buttons as well, and then the middle one is a middle click which you can use to scroll. This is the Tex Yoda, and I don't know if they make this one anymore. I think they make a newer version, but I really like this because like working on servers in a server room, the fewer USB cables you have to jumble around the better. So you got one USB cable for your mouse and keyboard, and you've got a USB hub. So I use this all the time for working on servers with bootable USB drives, and thoroughly pleased with my little Tex Yoda there. Yep, you spelled it correctly. I got it on Mass Drop a long time ago. It's got Cherry MX Blues. I think they're Cherry brand. Let me double check. Yep, they're Cherry brand. Cherry brand cherries. Yeah, tell me about it. I used to collect keyboards. Where is that big L? So this is what I used for a while at my main desk. It's the Corsair K95, and I had the original Pulse SA keycap set on this. And when I ordered this keycap set, they accidentally sent me two whole sets. So I've got one still brand new in the bag, not used. Okay, so we're going to pull this rubber foot off so that we can take the mesh off. It'll make our repairs a little easier here too. There we go. And then got a couple of T5 screws in there that we'll take out. There we go. We'll set that clean white mesh to the side. Let me grab a good black one over here. Oh yeah, that's nice. So this will be the one that we put it back on. Or actually what we're going to do, what we're going to do is when we take the amplifier out of this one, we're just going to drop it into here. instead of taking this mesh off too. So make things just a little simpler. Okay, let's get that ribbon cable detached. Time for the pry. See, can that be reused? Looks like it can. Is it scary to pry that open? No, honestly, it's one of my favorite parts. Actually, so long as they don't put up too much of a fight, you know. But this is always the most satisfying part when you get this part cracked open specifically. And these are fairly robust. So you can, if you end up accidentally cracking this, removing it, it's totally fine to reuse it. Really, all that matters is that you still have all 4 of your tabs here for the logic board to mount. If any of those are broken, I would suggest replacing this, but if you've got cracks or anything, trying to pull it up, totally fine to reuse it. Because, again, this does nothing to, as far as in actually doing any sort of seal. The actual gasket's past this glue here. Alright, look at the woofer. Looks good. Feels good. Smells good. Happy little subwoofer. Tim said, I wish Apple would open source all hardware/software specs like 3 years after end-of-life support because they make such good hardware, but I loathe the software. I couldn't agree more. I personally think that there should be a law that actually requires that manufacturers open source at least the hardware, perhaps some of the software too, within a certain period of time after end of life. Not asking for people to reveal their secrets for their existing products that they still sell and support. But for things that companies have moved on from, it makes no sense to not open that up. And if someone wants to reverse engineer your shit, they're going to do it anyways. Not open sourcing the hardware and software isn't going to stop somebody from doing that. And they don't need to open source the original software, but they do need to make it so that we could put our own software on there if we want. Because I understand if you don't want to open source your software for an old product because it shares a code base with the current product, and you don't want those getting out. That's understandable. But don't leave owners of the hardware dead in the water when the software is no longer supported. That should be illegal. That should be sick bird. As my driving instructor would say. He never say illegal. He would always say sick bird. Yeah, they don't even need to give us any of the open source software. They just need to allow us to do what we want with the hardware. As some would say in the Android world, unlocking the bootloader is a good example. With a locked bootloader, you can't load custom software onto your custom ROM. It's been a long time since I've played with custom ROMs on Android phones, just because of obviously how common it is now for manufacturers to lock the bootloaders. Yeah, security through obscurity. It's all just a giant cat and mouse game. Instead of playing cat and mouse, why don't you just straight up integrate and support what it is that people are trying to do? Hell, void warranties. Give someone a terms of service and an agreement to sign that says, I acknowledge that I have no warranty for doing any of this. I won't call you and complain when it doesn't work the way it should. And I mean, that's one of the best ways to find how to improve your products anyways. Just look at the history of Android and iOS rooting and the tweaks and customization that people would always come out with. And then lo and behold, a few years later, the device manufacturers just straight up integrate that as a native feature or application in their stuff. Happens all the time. So why stifle those opportunities when you can improve them? Okay, so we're taking a look at our amplifier here. We're just going to do a quick once over, see if anything looks bad. Our date code on the diode here says 1746K, so another one of those probably. Everything else looks good on here, so let's swap our cameras. Make sure we've got nice focus on that. Double check that this diode is actually dead here. Yes, it is. That is a very short diode. Let's get that replaced. See, like, the thing with, like, warranties in America, at least, is currently you are still entitled to a manufacturer warranty, I believe. When a manufacturer, sorry, what I meant to say was when a manufacturer gives you a warranty, it's on the manufacturer to actually prove if what you did broke it. If they can't prove that, they can't just deny your warranty simply because you did X, Y, or Z. They have to actually prove that you doing X, Y, or Z is what broke it, or caused some other malfunction. I would go as far as to say someone could probably argue and win in court if Apple were to do like a recall program for these HomePods and they started turning down people who had already gotten the repair done. That I think that wouldn't hold up in court for Apple, or at least I hope it wouldn't. But you know how those Apple suits work sometimes. Yeah, I knew there was some sort of act or current existing law that prohibits the manufacturer from voiding your warranty just because you opened it up or you did something to it that they didn't like. They have to prove. Unfortunately, more often than not, people, don't have the manufacturer says, no, you opened it, we won't fix it, it voided your warranty, and then the consumer comes back and says, no, you have to prove it, and they'll just say, well, good luck with that, we'll see you in court. And then people just don't even bother. They can't afford it, obviously, or... This goes into... Yeah, it does. Exactly. So people, there's just little to no chance that any average Joe Schmo who gets illegally denied a warranty claim, they're just going to be like, oh, big company said no, so guess I'll go with it. Your average Joe doesn't have the resources to take that kind of crap to court. Most people don't. And then you've got the, I think it's still open, class action lawsuit against Apple for version 14 bricking them, which, reading through the case documents and what the lawyers are claiming Apple did, they kind of hit the mark here and there, in my opinion, but that's usually what happens when you get a bunch of people that don't understand what it is that they're actually talking about as far as technology. But that class action lawsuit, I think it started back in January of this year, January, February, and it's still going. Alright, so we got a new power diode on there. We're just going to cool this off in front of the fan real fast. Gives me a chance to catch up on the chat here again. ADB is so different now than when I used it last. Dude, no kidding. At least the one-click fast boot ADB drivers, that's still a thing and it still works. Because I remember, if your device didn't support that, it was such a pain in the ass just to get ADB working. Yeah, $25 to each customer per iPhone. Oh yeah, I agree. You don't want people to be able to, change and implement new laws overnight. Let's see here. All right. We're going to put this together on the bench real fast, see if it powers up. And we'll hook up our multimeter here to it and see if it's got any DC offset issues. I think the most I've ever seen from a class action settlement was like $250. I think it was from American Eagle. And my wife was part of that class action because they had sold personal data or to advertisers, or like did something irresponsible and illegal with people's personal data. And my wife got cut a $250-something check from American Eagle. I thought wow, that's a lot. At least relative to how much you usually see from class action settlements. All right, here we go. Did we fix? We fixed. I'd like to make a video sometime of how not to take apart a HomePod and fix it. And I'm just going to make every single mistake possible. And it's going to completely destroy the HomePod, obviously, but I think it'll be a fun video idea. Also gives people a chance to see what common mistakes people make and what happens if you do. So, does this have any DC offset? No, it does not. We are well below the 50 millivolt target that we like to stay under, and we are holding relatively steady at around 4 to 5 millivolts. So that is looking good. Excuse me. So, we're going to put these parts back into the black HomePod shell and get them squared away with that. And they're, of course, they're trading us their good condition white parts. So we'll be able to reuse these possibly to test another color for dyeing. We will see. Don't forget your base. Just making sure that's clean. Let's drop our amp in there. Make sure this looks all good before we button it up. Just want to make sure I'm giving him a good quality condition black here for the white mesh trade. Gosh, Tim, you almost sound like someone who lives in Western Washington. Alright, started with a white HomePod that won't power on, ended with a black HomePod that powers on. Do we got good sound?
I'm having trouble connecting to the internet.
Do we got good volume buttons? Everything checks out. All right. That does it for Eddie's HomePod with no power and color swap. We're going to start on Darcy's amplifier board with death farts here in just a minute. Take a quick break, folks. Grab a drink, grab a bathroom. Be right back. All right, we've grabbed a drink, we've grabbed a bathroom. Let's jump back into it. Oh, Eddie, I don't know if you're watching right now, but your HomePod came with a nice wall mount too. Nice little oh, looks like it's a little bent there. Good as new. Almost. I'm sure you didn't buy the HomePod for the wall mount, but we'll make it nice for you. Alright, well that's better than a kick in the pants, yeah? Cool. Let's get our text on the screen updated there. We're moving on to Darcy's board only with death farts. This will be a nice and easy one for us. And yes, I'm saying that trying to jinx myself because I know you guys want to see more interesting repairs here, but at the end of the day, I'm not here to give you guys interesting repairs. I'm just here to fix stuff. Whether those things end up interesting or not, that's all up to you. But each repair I enjoy nonetheless. We've got a date code on our diode there of 1726K. We're going to replace that regardless. Hopefully prevent any no power issues from happening to them for a long time coming. Okay, that was just a little dust on the near the caps there. Okay, well, let's get this thing powered on and see what we're dealing with here. Darcy said it's got death farts, so we're gonna power it up, get it connected to a subwoofer and our multimeter. See if we've got that dreaded DC offset, which has always been the cause for these death farts here. I always like to put a few screws into the power supply on here just so it doesn't pop out on us while we're testing. That would be bad. If you're bored, then you're boring. Well, as the old Red Green would say, if the women don't find you handsome, they should at least find you handy. Let's see what this does. No changes, no repairs yet. We're just getting a baseline behavior check here. What do we got? Oh boy. So if you guys were curious what that basically means when the meter starts at 0 and just jumps up to 1 like that, that means that it's off the scale. And currently our multimeter goes up to 200 millivolts in this mode, and then we got to step up to the next mode, which reads up to 2 volts. The reason why you have different voltage ratings for just your DC voltage mode, and you don't just stick it in DC voltage mode and it reads it. The fancier meters, like the Fluke multimeter, I know will automatically scale the voltage, but these cheaper ones, you got to pick the right setting for the right scale that you're trying to read. So, and it looks like we've got just under 500 millivolts, or half a volt of DC offset. That is 10 times the amount that we like to see at most from these amplifier boards. Once this grows to around 2 to 3 volts DC, that's when the amplifier will trigger a death fart and a forced restart. So let's, oh boy, yeah. Let's get those filtering capacitors replaced. That's what causes that excessive amount of DC voltage to go through the amp and into the subwoofer there, causing our death farts. After we get those filtering capacitors replaced, we are also going to replace the Schottky barrier diode that we replace in all of the no power repairs. Just because of how often this diode fails, it's the #1 issue that HomePods come in for. We replace that diode every time for every repair, regardless of what they're in for. Only takes an extra minute of our time, costs only an extra $1 in parts. To me, that's worth it for the little extra piece of reassurance for people getting their stuff fixed. I've already got it apart. All the time and hard work has been put in. Might as well spend the extra minute and replace what we know is probably going to end up failing on them. So here's the 4 filtering capacitors. It only takes one of them to start acting up for you to start having DC offset issues like we're seeing here. So we go ahead and just replace all 4 of them at the same time while we've got it. It's also pretty hard to tell which one's actually bad. In general, when we go and test these bad capacitors, with my multimeter, at least they show the correct capacitance. But that's also with no load and no heat on them. So I don't have, personally, I don't even know a great way to test them, let alone have the tools to do it. but they may measure the correct capacitance and still be bad. I'm vaguely familiar with how you're supposed to test them, but again, I don't have the equipment or necessarily the expertise to really do it. So we just replace them all. And we're going to grab a fresh set of caps from our parts here. If you guys are curious what parts that I use, or the specs for these parts at least, I've got all that information on my website, nixfix.com, right there at the bottom right. Check it out sometime. Go to the common issues section, find your issue, and I'll have steps to diagnose and repair that along with the parts that you'll need. We're going to stick some fresh solder onto those pads for the board here as well. I like to use the low melt stuff so we don't have to have our temperature up so high on the heat gun and torture these poor little guys more than they need to. Let's see, what temperatures does this stuff melt at? I think it's like 191 degrees. How's that looking? Oh yeah. That's looking tight. Funky fresh. Okay. Let's replace that diode. Alright, you joker. Your time has come. You will come off. No. See that little cap right there? We bumped it. Here's how you fix it. We're going to glob some flux on there, and then we're just going to put the heat back on it, and it's going to just put itself right back into place. Look at that. Didn't even need to touch it. That guy right there. That's how you fix it. Look at that diode go where it should go. We're just going to give it a few taparoos, a few little tappy taps. Make sure it's nice and settled in. Got a few balls to clean up here. Let's get that out of here. Let's get that out of here. We don't need that floating around. See a bit of funkiness in there. We're gonna flux it up and hit it with a little more heat here. There we go, I can live with that. Oh yeah, I'd really like to get a camera that really shows it off. This is just some cheapo $60 Amazon 4K USB camera. But it gets the job done pretty well. Yeah, and it is pretty cool to see it nice and up close. All the hard work, or the flow of solder does all the hard work for you. You just got to put them relatively in the right spot, relatively lined up. Use plenty of flux, and it'll do all the hard work for you. Okay, this is it. If this is fixed, then we are all done for the day. Let's find out. Ooh. The moment of truth. Alright, that is a significant improvement from the 500 millivolts and growing. Looks like it's gonna stick around 5 to 6 millivolts there. It's holding relatively steady, and it is far below the 50 millivolts that we try to stay under, and like I said, an order of magnitude less than what they were previously stuck with. So, in our base, still works fine. So folks, we got everything that we needed to sent in today fixed up without a problem. If you guys have any questions about the repairs that we did today or any HomePod repairs in general, you're welcome to leave a comment down below. I always suggest everybody doing their own repairs to head over to my website, nixfix.com. Check out the common issues section. There you'll find all of the common issues that we found and fixed over the past year or so now, as well as the steps to, did I say that? Diagnose and repair? Whatever. You'll find steps to diagnose and repair each issue, along with the parts that you may need to do so. I've also got my contact info up on my website, if instead of doing all that, you'd rather just mail it in and to be repaired here on the channel. Hope you guys all enjoyed this live stream repair, and I'll catch y'all in the next one.